college sports, and then some. We got it right here on HSRN The Network, the voice of
You're listening to
HBCU
Green Talk
sports.
for Brown Folks with Ryan Marshall on HSRN.
What's going on, everybody? This is Ryan Marshall, your host of GTBF Green Talk for Brown Folks. I am so excited to be back here with you guys, talking to you guys for episode 3, the first episode, and I'll tell you what episode 3 is about here in just a second. But the first 2 episodes were really good, and we got off to a really good start talking about, I can't even think about wealth building in the first episode, and then we jumped ahead in the second episode to talking about the racial wealth gap and ways that the racial wealth gap can be decreased in this generation, and then even starting to decrease that for the next generation between black and white families. Today, we're talking about creating comfortable retirement. That is the name of our show, Creating a Comfortable Retirement. And when we talk about creating a comfortable retirement, one of the things that we want to do is we want to talk about the fact of being able to have the money and the resources to live the type of life that we want to live. Now, I got to say the real interesting thing about trying to create a comfortable retirement is that when we get to that retirement age, and I think the official retirement age is 67 years old. When you get to that retirement age, you want to be able to have enough money to be able to last your entire lifetime. Now, think about this. How long are we going to live? Those are some of the things that we think about. The average life expectancy for men today is 79. For a woman, it's 82. Well, think about it. If you're somebody that's a 40-year-old person, you've got 27 years until retirement. Technically, if you're looking at the what the government officially says retirement is for an age. So that's 27 years. So I would imagine, and most people would think, that 27 years from now, technology would be a whole lot better. Medicine would have advanced compared to where it is now. And so, or that's the hope at least. And so you think about when medicine and technology advance, then people are taken care of better. People tend to live longer. And so as their lives begin to stretch in their 70s, their 80s, their 90s and beyond, what has to happen is money has to stretch with them. And so those are the things that we talk about when trying to live a comfortable lifestyle. How much money do I really need in retirement? What does that look like for me? What is comfortable retirement? What number, and I get asked this quite a bit when people sit down and talk with me, what number do I need to have in order to be able to hit retirement? Well, think about this. Okay, so you have to have, so retirement is more a function of money and not as much about age. So most people think, okay, well, because I hit 65 or I hit a certain age, I can now retire. If you don't have the money to retire, even at age 65, you're not going to be able to retire. Now, look at conversely, if you're somebody that's 45 years old and you do have the money to be able to retire, you could make the choice to, as long as you had enough money to not have to be able to go back to work, retire. And so I think that's important to note that retirement is less about age and more about the money that you do have. So, Ryan, okay, how much money do I need to retire? Well, I think the first question is, what do you want your retirement to look like? What are you trying to do? And that's some of the things that I ask people because, people, want to do different things. Some people just want to sit at home and be able to just have the free time to just, if they want to, pick up, go to the grocery store, go spend time with grandkids, be able to take trips, whatever. Some people want to be able to do other things in retirement. But for me, I look at it like this. The average retiree needs 70% of their peak salary that they received in their income earning years to live on during retirement. So what does that mean? 70%. Okay, so we're talking about, let's say, for example, let's use nice round numbers because I'm not really that great at math and I don't want to have to do that much calculation on the fly here. Let's say your peak salary, the peak income that you received was $100,000 at one point in time. You might have retired making less than $100,000, but let's just say at one time you did make $100,000. So 70% of that would be $70,000, most likely, because in theory, people's costs of living when they hit retirement generally goes down. Generally, houses are paid for. Generally, there's less expenditures, that they have. Maybe if they had kids, they're grown by now and they are able to take care of themselves. So now they don't have to worry about taking care of their kids. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, because that's not always the case when we're talking about responsibilities and expenditures going down into retirement. But let's say you're 65 and you decide you need to retire, and you need 70% of your max salary, or your highest income that you received, which is $100,000. Let's say you want to be able to plan to have enough money till you're 90 years old, or let's just use a nice number. That's 25 years in retirement. So now you're multiplying. You need on day one $70,000, because if we're at $100,000 peak salary, chances are most people have that amount of lifestyle is $100,000. So you need at least $70,000 for the first 1 year. Now you multiply that times 25 years, okay? Because in order to be able to live a comfortable retirement, you have to have enough money to be able to take care of the things that you need and want to do in life after you have worked. And so 25 years, in order for you to not have to re-enter the workforce and stay retired, you multiply that by $70,000. I'm going to pull out a calculator here. Let's do that. $70,000 times 25 years is $1.75 million. Now, most people are like, oh my God, that's a lot of money. Yes. Like I said, retirement is more a function of money and less about age. The harsh reality that we see a lot of people go through, a lot of retirees go through, is they get to retirement and they realize they don't have enough money to sustain the amount of life that they are living. And so one of three things happens. Okay, you get there and the average retiree has about $152,000. $152,000 in retirement savings. No generation saving enough. Not baby boomers, not Gen Xers, not any, millennials, not any group of people. Baby boomers on average have $152,000 saved up. Here's something else that's staggering. A third of Americans have zero retirement savings at all. We haven't made it a priority, and that's very unfortunate. Let's say you get to that point where you have that $152,000, and we just saw that, okay, in the case of if your peak salary was $100,000 and you needed 70% of it, $70K, that's 2 years worth of income. And then one of those three things are going to happen. You get to a point where you have to re-enter the workforce, and there are a lot of people that realize, well, I can't retire the way that I really wanted to retire, so I have to go back in the workforce. And a lot of people dress it up as, well, I got bored at home, and so I decided to, come back to work, and, I wanted to, just get on my feet and just start doing things again. A lot of people dress it up like that. The second thing is, if you stay retired, you have to significantly reduce your way of life, your lifestyle. And so if you have this hypothetical $152,000 and you need $70,000 a year to live, that only lasts you about 2 years, a little over 2 years. And then all of a sudden, before you get to that point, you're like, I'm going to run out of money. So you have to significantly cut back. You hear some retirees say, I'm living on a fixed income. That's one of the common things that I hear a lot when people haven't saved enough money in retirement. I'm living in a fixed income. That fixed income of the money that they've got maybe coming from a pension or Social Security or anything like that, and may not have any other means of having their retirement come through. And so generally people that are comfortable in retirement, that have enough money to cover whatever it is, they don't say I'm living on a fixed income. And so they have to significantly cut back And that may not always be the easiest thing to do. But that's the second thing. The third thing is they may have to rely on a family member. So when we're talking about relying on a family member, if they have kids, they may ask the kids for money, or they may move in with their family, or other things like that to help them cut back on costs associated with their lifestyle in retirement. Because maybe they realize, oh my goodness, my life expectancy is at 80, I'm healthy, and I've got $5,000 left, and that's not going to last me the rest of the year. Or I might have $50,000 left, and that's only going to last me 1 or 2 years. And they realize, you know what, I got to do something. And so that's very common. Those are some of the harsh realities that we have to face. And think about this. There are 82 million baby boomers. Many of them they're retired or are looking at trying to retire during a pandemic where job security is at its worst. People don't know if they're going to be laid off, they're going to be furloughed, what's going to happen if we have to go back to start, staying at home again. Mask mandates are starting to come back. And now you start thinking about, okay, well, what if my job decides that they need to lay me off? What if the economy starts tanking? What if the market starts tanking again like it did last year when we went and lost 30% and went into a bear market? Those are things that we all worry about. So there are some, I could ramble and talk about this till I'm blue in the face, but we talk about those statistics. I want to talk about some of the solutions. So coming up in segment 2, we're going to start diving into how to be able to live a comfortable retirement. Creating Comfortable Retirement is the name of this show. And we're going to dive into maybe some ways that you can be able to do that. If you haven't hit retirement, some things that maybe we can do to, if you feel like you're not hitting the mark, maybe we can make a course correction and get you on the mark. So this is Green Talk for Brown Folks, episode 3, Creating Comfortable Retirement. I'm your host, Ryan Marshall. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It's Ryan Marshall, GTBF, Green Talk for Brown Folks, and we are talking about creating comfortable retirement. And we just kind of set it up in this first segment, talking about what a comfortable retirement looks like. Okay, so when we talk about trying to create a significant and comfortable retirement for ourselves, one of the things that we have to think about, even beyond the amount of money that we contribute to an employer-sponsored retirement plan or an individual retirement account in the form of an IRA or any form of a retirement, is that in order to create wealth, there are 4 things that eat up wealth. There's procrastination, okay? There is inflation, losses, and taxes. So think about this. The amount of money that it takes, the kind of money that we want to have in retirement, a lot of it, the reason why a lot of people don't have the type of money that they want is because they've procrastinated. When you don't allow the time element of money, so the longer that you have for your money, once you are able to start contributing to some form of retirement account, the longer you have to allow that money to compound and to be able to work for you, the more chances are the higher the amount of money that you're going to be able to have, and the less you have to contribute to that in order to hit that number. So if you started saving for retirement at 20 or 25, chances are to hit $1 million, you're going to have to be able to save less money than if you were to start saving at 45 and 50 and 55 years old. And that's what a lot of people do, is they tend to wait to save for retirement. So one of the ways that you want to create a great retirement for yourself is the earlier you start, the better. Do not procrastinate. Allow the time element to take hold and be able to grow your money and grow your wealth for you. So that's rule number 1 here, is don't procrastinate. The second rule is, once you start contributing, after you have gotten off of starting to contribute to your retirement plan, you want to earn a rate of return that is going to outpace inflation. Okay, so inflation is something they call the tax of time. So we all know inflation by how we feel when the money comes out of our pockets. So the average rate of inflation the last 100 years has been around 3.1%, about 3%. So that means the cost of goods, the cost of services, the power of your money decreases and diminishes every year. The cost of things like gas and clothing and food and automobiles and housing and stuff, what it costs today, because of inflation, it will cost 3% more the next year, and 3% more the next year, and 3% more the following year. I remember pumping gas my senior year in high school, and it was $1.04. $1.04 a gallon. That was in 2000. Yesterday, I pumped gas. It was $3.59. Can you imagine how much inflation has affected the prices of gas? Okay, the prices of automobiles, the prices of housing, all of those things. And so because of that, it takes more of your money to be able to purchase those things year after year, which means the power of your money is decreasing. So if the power of your money is decreasing, you absolutely want to earn a rate of return that's going to outpace inflation. Because obviously, when you're talking about having a comfortable lifestyle and a comfortable retirement, you want to be able to have your money grow in that regard. So if you're earning anything at 3% or less, chances are you're at a wash or your money is losing purchase power. So if your money is growing at 0.5%, and in most bank accounts, the average bank account interest rate is 0.09%. Okay, so your money is not going to be growing anywhere significantly, far below inflation. If your money's growing at 2, 3, or 4%, the purchase power of your money, you're not going to be able to grow wealth. You want to be able to earn a rate of return that is going to far outpace inflation, so then that way you can create wealth. So that's rule number 2. And as I'm giving you these 4 general rules, these are really good rules of thumb. I'm going to give you specifics on how you can grow wealth. Where are some of those places that you can grow your retirement wealth to live comfortably? But I'm just going through some specifics. Rule number 3. So we talked about procrastination. We talked about inflation. The third rule is you want to reduce taxes or lower your taxable liability. And so I think we talked about before in the previous show that every financial vehicle has a tax consequence, and it falls into one of 3 tax buckets. Every financial vehicle, either taxable now, taxable later, or taxable never. And I would think that most people listening to the show today would agree that a tax never strategy or a tax-free strategy, reducing your taxes, is going to beat tax now and tax later any day of the week. And so one of the things that eats up wealth is taxes. So having $1 million or having $500,000 pre-tax money in retirement is very different than having $500,000 in after-tax or tax-free retirement strategy. So all of that money is yours versus a lot of that money is Uncle Sam's in the case of a pre-tax vehicle. You're talking about when you start to take money from a retirement account and it's taxed generally at ordinary income rates. And that is significant. So that's going to eat into your wealth. So that's something we're going to dig into a little bit more. So procrastination, inflation, taxes. The fourth thing that generally cuts into your wealth is losses. So we want to mitigate or in some cases eliminate losses or the potential for market losses with respect to our financial vehicles, our retirement vehicles. And so if you can find a way where you can grow money, grow your wealth, something that you can use for retirement tax-free, and take away market volatility, take away market losses, then I think that's a great way to keep a lot of your wealth. Because let's face it, when people lost that 30% last year, when the market started to tank, when the economy started to go south in the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, when the world just started to shut down, could you imagine somebody trying to retire at that point, getting set to retire, and they've got all this money saved up from years and years and years, and then they lose 30% of it, boom, overnight? That is devastating. And so losses are going to be one of those ways that is going to eat your wealth. So just as a quick recap here, and we're going to move on, is procrastination. Don't procrastinate. Start saving. And the earlier you start saving for retirement, the less amount that you would need to contribute monthly in order to hit that goal. And the longer you wait, the more you'd have to save, to a point where it could be potentially unattainable or unrealistic to be able to save that amount of money. Talking about inflation, you want to be able to earn a rate of return that outpaces inflation. You want to try to find ways to reduce your taxable liability. Taxes are an eater of wealth, and then also losses are an eater of wealth. So if you can find ways to mitigate losses and with respect to investments, a lot of advisors tell you to diversify your money. So if your money is diversified and not all of your money is in one basket, then once you have losses, by mitigating that mitigates the amount of loss that you have. Because if one particular fund has lost a lot of money and you've got all your money in that one fund, well, guess what? All of your money is going to lose, as opposed to diversifying. And if you have your money spread around 3 or 4 funds and one fund loses, but the other 2 or 3 gain, then for the most part, your portfolio is gained. So that's a great way. But also finding ways to take market volatility off the table. And then taxes. That's the big takeaways. So I hope you got that. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come right back. This is Ryan Marshall, GTBF, Green Talk for Brown Folks. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. It's Ryan Marshall, GTBF, Green Talk for Brown Folks, and we are talking about creating comfortable retirement. So it's been a fantastic show that we had here, and we're going to continue this conversation again next week, because I really want to dive into some of the strategies that we could take specifically on how to build wealth for yourself in retirement so that you can create a comfortable retirement. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, things you like, things you didn't like, things that you wish we could talk about, things that you really appreciated that we talked about, email me, ryan.marshall@howmoneyworks.com. Ryan, RYAN.Marshall, MARSHALL, @howmoneyworks.com. You can also find me on social media. I'm on Twitter @Ryan H. Marshall. You can also find me on Instagram @RHM Wealthwave. And I'm certainly excited to dive into this part 2 of creating comfortable retirement on GTBF, Green Talk for Brown Folks, with your host, Ryan Marshall. We'll see you again next week.